Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the origins of the religious right. And you might be surprised, they don't have anything to do with abortion. Check this out. So, the official origin story of the religious right is that it had to do with not this guy. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Aha, this guy, Jerry Falwell, who became the king of the so-called moral majority. He was the head of that organization in the 1980s, most prominently during the Reagan era. And the original origin story is that it was his passionate opposition to Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court decision in 1973, that galvanized him. That's a story they want you to believe. It ain't the real story. In fact, when Roe first was decided in 1973, sizable majorities of both Protestants and Catholics supported legalizing abortion. In fact, the consensus among Protestant evangelicals was that abortion was really a Catholic issue. It wasn't even an issue for them. And even the majority of theologians, both Catholic and Protestant, believed that abortion was up to the physician and to the woman. They had no problem with it. There was literally almost no or a very muted reaction to Roe v. Wade, including from the moral majority and Jerry Falwell. So what were they actually doing activism about? This won't surprise you. This is per a guy named Randall Balmer. He's a professor who wrote this piece actually in 2014. The real activism by the religious right, all the way back from Brown v. Board, all the way through the late 1970s, was about integration. They were angry that Brown v. Board had forced the integration of schools, and so a lot of white parents, particularly in the South, had pulled their kids out of public school rather than let them go to integrated schools, and they were angry that they couldn't get a tax break anymore for having their kids in segregation academies, as they were called. The real opposition was an opposition to integration. But a guy came along named Paul Wyrick who wanted to organize the religious right for the Republican Party, and he realized it was a bad look to have your whole ethos be against integration. So he came up with something better.
The divide was partly engineered by Paul Wyrick, a right-wing strategist who, in 1979, saw a political opportunity. Evangelicals made up 29% of the population. Abortion was his ticket to win their vote.
Many of them had not been voting at all and had seen politics as sort of evil, corrupt, and to some extent largely irrelevant. Paul Wyrick thought that evangelicals could bring elections home for Republicans.
They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.